Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Welcome everyone to the 15th installment of Creating with Window Envelopes. Every month I will be posting a new idea on how to create various junk journal elements using window envelopes that measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. But the majority of the ideas that I share with you can also be modified to fit different window envelopes that are currently in your stash or even just basic envelopes. In today's episode, I'll be sharing with you a window envelope journal insert, and they're basically just little mini journals to put inside of our journals. This really isn't a new idea. I've seen lots of other people do it, but I figured it would be a good episode to share with you guys in case you are very new to creating with envelopes or just looking for different ideas on how to use your window envelopes. And again, these are the envelopes that I'm using. They're 8 5/8 by 3 5/8, but you can definitely use different sizes of envelopes. And I have 3 samples to share with you guys, and if you decide to stick around to the end of the video, I do create this envelope, so if you want to watch it step by step, I do have a process tutorial on this one. And so the first one I wanted to share with you guys is this little quick Alice in Wonderland type themed one. I've been working on making some different pieces slowly for an Alice in Wonderland journal. I'm not getting very far on it, but I'm at least creating a couple of pieces when I do some of these episodes of creating with window envelopes. And so again, you can see the window envelope here. I did some paper collaging where I just piece papers around the window envelope. I did create a little pocket on this one, so there is a tag, and hopefully I didn't glue it in. So there's the little tag that sticks inside the pocket, and luckily I didn't glue it in. You could also stick a larger tag in there if you wanted to, and then you would cover up the window envelope, and then you get to see it when you pulled out the tag. And I added some little mushrooms. They were stickers from my stash, and I added some trim. And it's just a bunch of random paper scraps left over. Some of them were from a paper pad that was somewhat Alice in Wonderland themed. This one actually was a Valentine's Day one with the hearts on it. And then when you open it up here, I added a little banner flag, and I stuck 2 little die cuts underneath there. And then you can see here through this window envelope, I just stuck, again, another one of those little banner pieces, just so you would have something fun to see. And of course, if you wanted to, as you use it in your journal, you could write something on here, and then you would see that, like I could put Wonderland or Alice on it or something. And then I have all these wonderful pages to journal on the inside. And then on the back side of this one, I did create a pocket. And so I do have a pocket here for a tag, and then I also had this little piece here just sticking out because I thought that was fun. And I also created a little belly band right here, so if you wanted to stick something on there too, you also could do that. And then on the upside of this page, I had this little insert that you could also journal on, so I put that up there. And then the back side of this one, I had this little teacup thing. And so I did create it as just kind of a little mini tuck spot. I don't think that these are going to be the tags that I'm going to use in the final journal, but I just wanted to stick something in there right now to show you guys that it was just kind of a little insert thing there that you could decorate and add a little tag to. So that was the first one I wanted to share with you. Here's kind of another little shabby chic one. Again, I was just using up some scrap papers. The majority of the paper is Prima paper. I think this music paper right here was from like a Hobby Lobby pad, but the rest of it I think is Prima. And so on this one, again, I just did some decorating. I did some paper collaging around it. I added a little trim up at the top, some trim here. The bottom, I also did a little seam binding bow here in the corner, and then I created a little pocket, and I added this little Paris insert. On this one, on the window envelope, I decided to glue my piece behind the window so you don't see it on your first page like you did with that Alice in Wonderland one. Just something kind of different. And then on this side, I just, again, paper piece some of that Prima paper. I added a little pocket down here using some leftover laces. And so you could stick, again, a little insert. And again, just for example, I had put a basic tag in there, manila tag. It's not my plan to leave that one in there long term, but I wanted to show you guys that it does house something if you wanted to right there. And this one I used some tea-dyed paper. I probably most likely will go in and do some stenciling or some stamping on these once I've decided what type of journal I want to put it into. So I left them blank for right now. And this back page, I just paper pieced a couple of things and I added some trim down the middle piece. This was a leftover piece from a digital kit from Ephemera's Vintage Garden, and I just had that little piece right there that I had saved, and it worked well with this Prima paper. And I used 2 different Prima paper pads. One's Love Story, and I can't remember what this one is called. And then that's the back side. Again, I just paper pieced some things together. There isn't any hidden pockets or anything. Just a finished back side. And so that was the second one I wanted to share with you guys. And then here is the final one. And again, this one is what we will be creating if you watch the tutorial. And this one I use paper from Authentique. And you can see if you look close, there's a little girl behind the window on this one. I layered some laces and trims and a flower trim up at the top and trims off of the side, where these two I didn't do that yet. This one I might go ahead and do that still. I'm not sure on this shabby chic one. But I do like the way that looked. And this one I kind of kept it pretty simple. There's no pockets or anything on this one. But I could go ahead and add them in the future once I've put it in a journal. But when you open it, you can see that I did the little girl. And then I layered another little piece of paper with a perfume bottle on it. And I left this blank because I figured you could journal on it. And same with the backside. In this one I had some graph paper that was blue and white. So I used that on the inside of this one. And then again, the backside I left really plain. Again, you could just journal on the backside. But again, you could go in and add some sort of pocket on these if you wanted to. And as far as how I would use them in a journal, is I would either stick them in a pocket inside of my journal, whether it's like a side pocket or a bottom pocket, or else I would go ahead and attach it to a page using a paper clip, or else you could just use it as a little floating journal too, where you just randomly stuck it inside of any page in your journal and just had it kind of floating around in there. And of course, if you didn't want to use it in a journal, you could also use it as a little mini journal in your purse also. So those are a couple ideas on how you can use it in your journal. And again, for those of you who are wanting to stick around, I will go into the tutorial part here shortly. And for the rest of you, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. So again, we are creating a window envelope journal insert notebook for our journals. And to begin with, you are going to need a window envelope. It can be any type of window envelope. The ones that I am using today measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8, and I am also starting off with a window envelope that's been closed. It's already sealed. And so the first step is going to be to cut off. We're going to cut off a little sliver off of the top and the side, and then we're also going to decide how tall we want our little insert to be. And then you also need to decide when you cut off the side how you want your little notebook to open up. If you want it to open up this way or if you want it to open up this way. A lot of it will depend upon what your window looks like and what you want to show behind your window envelope. And so again, to begin with, I'm just going to cut off a little sliver up at the top. So I've cut right here, and then I want mine to open up this way. So I'm going to cut off a sliver on this side. You can, of course, change it if you would rather make this a long skinny one. You could also do that, but again, I'm just going to cut off just a little sliver. And then now my next step is to decide how tall I want my little notebook insert to be inside of my journal. And most of my journals are usually between 7 and 8 inches tall. Most of the time they're closer to 7 or 7.5. So I definitely want to make sure that my insert is probably less than 7.5. I'm not creating this for any particular journal at the moment, so I'm just going to create it to a size that I know will most likely fit into a future journal. So I'm going to go a little bit smaller. I'm going to make mine at, I think, 6 3/4. That way it's going to fit into a lot of different journals. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the bottom then. So now we have kind of an open envelope. And then I just wanted to remind everyone, I know I've talked about this before in some of my other creating with window envelope videos. When you cut off the bottom, you have this cute little piece left over, and you can make it into a pocket. So what you would do is just glue down right on the inside here, and then you have a nice little pocket to add to something if you want. So don't throw those away. So again, now we have this little insert, and if you are just wanting the basics of how to put this together, I will show you guys that. And for those of you who want to stick around for the whole process from start to finish, continue to watch. But I already cut down some papers to size. And so for those of you who want just kind of the quick method, then what I would go ahead and do then is, after you've decorated your front and back covers and you have your little pages for the inside for inserting, you're going to go ahead and sew them in, whether you do a pamphlet stitch, or for today I am going to just sew down the inside with my sewing machine. And so that's kind of the quick way of how to make one of these if you don't want to watch the decorating part. But I'm going to set this aside for right now. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the decorating. And again, since I like to make my videos go a little bit faster and not have to do so much editing, I've already kind of pre-done a couple of things. And so I did take exact same envelope, but I already went ahead and I inked the edges on the insides, and I forgot to do the back. So I'll do that real quick with you guys. So I have kind of this pre-done one. And I did ink my edges, which you don't have to do, but I did ink them with this Distress ink. It's the Broken China from Tim Holtz. And so I did ink those edges. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside and create another one with that one later. And so once I've done this, your next step is to go ahead and start covering it with paper. And you can either start on the back or the front or the inside, whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong. And I went ahead and I cut some papers. They're still a little bit too big because, again, I like to start off with just, if I'm going to cut out the window insert in the middle, I like to have it a little bit bigger so I have a little bit of room to play with it. And again, for those of you who are new to watching my Creating with Window Envelopes, you can either do some sort of collaging around it where you would maybe glue down little pieces of paper around the outside of the window. You could definitely do that. But a lot of times I like to just take a piece of paper and cut out the inside of the window. And to do that, you would just take another envelope that's the same and you push out the plastic piece. And so now you have a little template. And so if you look really close on the back side of this, you can see that I have some pencil marks. And then I used a scissors or an X-Acto knife. And I just cut on the inside, just slightly inside of where my pencil marks are. So again, you would just layer this on the back side and trace around it with a pencil. And so that's how I create these pieces. And again, I like to make them a little bit longer and a little bit wider, so then I have a little bit of room to play when I glue them down. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down. And then go ahead and lay your piece down. And again, you want to make sure that you're not going over the fold line so that it's lined up with your edge. Then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut off the excess paper that I don't need. And you can use a scissors, or you can go ahead and grab your paper cutter. I like to use my paper cutter. It just cuts a little bit straighter. And so now we have our base paper laid on the front. And then you're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the inside. And again, I already have a piece already cut. And I'm going to go ahead and lay that down. So again, I'm going to grab my scrap paper here and add some glue around it again. And when you lay down this piece of paper, again, you don't want to make sure you're not covering up your fold. You want it just inside of your fold. And you can see that's why I went ahead and inked the edges just a little bit there, so then you don't see white. So sometimes I'll hold up my little envelope like this so I know that I'm keeping my paper inside of the fold line. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up. And I was a little off, so we'll try this again. So making sure again that and I also like to kind of peek at it too on the front and just make sure it doesn't look too awful on the front side. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth that down. And if you wanted to, you could have put, before you glued this sheet down, you could have put down like, if you wanted to have your window envelope covered, you could have easily done that. I did that on one of the samples. On this one, I glued this piece of paper down, and you don't see it on this side because I glued over it. So you can also do that. Or in the case of like this Alice in Wonderland one that I did, I left it open and then I glued something right here on the front of my cover or my first page so that you can still see something through the window, but it's on your first page. And so that's what I want to do again for this one. And I don't like that you can kind of see the inside paper. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add some sort of trim or something around there to cover that up. So I'm not too concerned about it, but there are ways to fix it if you do that. And so then on this inside page right here, again, I kind of pre-cut another piece of paper, and that's going to be my inside. And of course you can decorate these as much or as little as you want to do. Sometimes I like to choose, if I'm not going to heavily decorate, I like to choose papers that I can easily journal on. So I like this one because it's still light enough to journal on, and you could still journal on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down to an exact same method, except for this time I don't have to worry about the window envelope part, which is nice. So again, you just want to make sure that you aren't going to glue this down on the fold. And so I am going to go ahead and cut off the excess from this piece of paper that I didn't do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And then I'm going to go ahead, because you most likely will see the back side of this in your journal. Most of the time I would stick this in a little pocket inside of my journal. And so I'm going to go ahead then and also glue this down to the back side. So I think that looks pretty good for the moment. And then I'm going to go ahead and I think I want my corners right here rounded. So I'm going to take my crocodile and I'm just going to cut a couple of the corners. And I'm also going to ink some of my edges. And so now you can either continue to decorate, or you can go ahead and add your insert in the middle. And since, if I was doing the pamphlet stitch, that would be the last thing I would do. But since I'm going to use my sewing machine to sew this in, I'm going to go ahead and do it now before I've heavily decorated it. And so what I like to do for that is I will line up several sheets of paper, and I'm just using 4 pieces of grid paper that I had. And I'm going to kind of center them in the middle here because they're slightly smaller than the size of this. And what I like to do is then just take a paper clip and kind of paper clip where I want it. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew down this line right here in the middle. And I am going to do that off camera, but I will come back and show that to you when I am done. So I did go ahead and finish sewing down, and I just did a straight stitch right down the middle. And you can kind of see on this side. You can cover this side if you want with some laces or trims. And the next step, of course, is to go ahead and decorate. And for this one, I'm going to keep this one pretty simple. You can add a little pocket if you want here or along the sides, or even on the back side if you want. I'll maybe just do a little decorating on the front. But the first thing I like to do, since I didn't cover up my window envelope, is I like to have something showing through besides the blue paper on the inside. And so a couple ideas that I had is I could just cut like a strip of paper, and I could glue that down on the inside, and I think that looks kind of cute. I also have, from this paper collection, on the back side of this paper, it had a pattern on it, and so I did cut this out thinking I could put this little perfume bottle right behind there as an option. And I also, from the paper collection, they did have some cutouts. Most of them were too big for this, but they did have this gal, and at first I thought I might just use her as a pocket on the front, but then I decided that maybe I wanted this one to be a little bit cleaner and just put some laces on the front. So then I thought, well, wouldn't she look kind of cute behind this window envelope? And so that's what I'm going to do. As you can kind of see just a glimpse of her. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I guess before I glue it down on the inside, I think I am going to just round the corners before I glue it down real quick. So I'm just lining her up kind of behind the window before I stick her down. And I think that works right there. So I'm just going to carefully close it. And then I'll just do a little tweaking before I officially put her down. So that still works. And then also what you could do is I might just glue this down too, because I kind of like that little piece right there. And if I'm careful where I glue it, you won't see it behind here. So I'm going to glue that down also while I'm gluing. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to round the corners on this also. And now I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit of decorating on here. And so I just have a pile of some laces, and I do have, you know, a couple things like this sitting on my desk just to kind of play with. And I think one of the things I want to do is I do want to put a nice little border on the edge of this on the front and the back cover. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. And when I glue down laces and trims, I do like to use Fabri-Tac glue or some sort of glue that I know Aleene's has a glue too that works with fabric and paper. And then you can also use, if it's lighter weight laces and trims, tacky glue also works to glue down. So after gluing down these edges, I think I am going to go over these edges with some little rickrack trim. But before I do that, I do want to try and cover that little bit of paper that's showing through from this side. This piece of paper showing through right here on the edge. So I just need to glue a little something down. And it's really only bad right here and then right up here. So I'm thinking I could probably put like a little flower up here and then something down the sides. And so I had this little piece of vintage trim that I'm thinking might look kind of nice. And I'm trying to decide if I glue it all the way down or if I just maybe glue part of it. And I think I'm just going to do part of it, in case I still want to do something down there, which I don't know if I do or not. So, and sometimes on some of these trims, they look really good on both sides. So it's really tough to decide which one's the right side and which side's the wrong side. But this one I might cut down to the size that I want. And I think I am going to go ahead and maybe glue some of this little vintage rickrack around the rest of the window. I'm going to go ahead and add it along the top part here also. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of this on the back side. So there's what we got so far then on the back side. And before I keep on going, I'm going to, because I know I get a lot of questions on this about the cover on my Fabri-Tac. This is not the original cover that comes with this glue. It's actually a cover that came off of some Art Institute glue that I had from a long time ago, and it just fits on here, and I like it because it has the thinner or the smaller nozzle on it, so I just keep on reusing it and save it. So oftentimes when I'm done with a glue bottle, I will save the covers in case I want to use it on something else. And oftentimes I have found that the covers from the Fabri-Tac, they get a little hole in them right here, and so then they leak all over the place. And so I do save a couple of my old covers, and I just wash them out just in case I ever need them for a top of another glue bottle. So again, I just wanted to pop in and say that because I do get a lot of questions about the tip of my glue bottle. And so that's what we have so far. And now I just need to decide if I want to add just a little something to the bottom here. And I think I will. I have all these little scraps left over from past projects that I'd like to do something with. And so I think that works quite well on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down to the bottom. And then I think the last thing I want to do is I think I still want to add a flower or something up to the top. And so I do have some pieces left over again from past projects. I could glue that one down, maybe put some eyelash trim behind this flower and put this right there. And so I think I'm going to do that. And then if you wanted to, you could also add a flat back pearl to the middle. But I'm going to maybe skip not adding the pearl for right now until I put it in a journal and just see how bulky the journal is. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down. And I'm just bunching up the eyelash trim, and I put some glue down. And so I'll just kind of stick that kind of whole mess of stuff right there. And then it'll kind of secure itself when I glue this down. So then I'll go ahead and add some glue to the back of this flower trim. Then I did have another little really small flower sitting here from a scrap from another trim. So I'm going to cut this, clean it up a little bit, and then I'll glue that on top of this flower. So that's what the flower looks like. And again, you could add a little flat back pearl or a button on top of that if you wanted to. Sometimes I'll hold off on doing that until it is in my journal, just because sometimes if you add too many layers, it adds a lot of bulk to your journal. And so I think I'm going to call that good. You could add another little flower or something down here if you wanted to, but I just like how that looks. And I'm just going to leave the back plain. You can still journal on this if you put it inside of a journal. Or you could leave it just as a little purse journal, but I'm going to use it, I think, down the road in an actual journal as an insert. And again, you could stick it in a pocket, or you could paper clip it to your pages. And so I'll show you again what it looks like up close. You can see that beautiful girl peeking through the window. And the trim on the sides, and then the back side. And I'm just going to leave the back side plain. I think you could still easily journal on that. And then again, when you open it up, you could easily journal on here. Again, if you wanted to, you could add another little flower, a decorative piece if you wanted to, or even up here or down here, you could add a little decorative piece. And then I have all these pages to journal on. If you wanted to take it a step further, you could go ahead and like do some stenciling or some rubber stamping on some of the pages. Then again, the back side, I'm just going to leave plain so that you can journal on it. But if you wanted to, you could add another little flower or decorative piece up at the top. And again, that is the back side. Thank you again, everybody, so much for watching today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode of creating a little window envelope journal insert for our journals. And again, I would use these as in a pocket or else attached with a paper clip on my journal page. And hopefully I will see you guys back here next month for another episode of Creating with Window Envelopes. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.